Hey everyone, and welcome back to Bridging the Gap. Make sure to leave a like on this video down below and subscribe. My name is Alvin. I lean right on most issues, and I'll be representing the Republican side.
My name is Luke. I lean left on most issues, and I'll be representing the Democratic side. Hey guys, so in this video, Alvin and I will be giving you some new bipartisan analysis to start off this new year. We're going to be looking at the 2025 elections, the major elections upcoming this year. So yeah.
Yeah, so now it is 2025. Happy New Year to everyone. And this year we have a few major elections, even though it is an off year. There's no presidential election, of course, there's no midterm election, but there are quite a few important elections still, and there are so every year. The most important of which are going to be two unmarked races right now on the map, two governor races in Virginia and New Jersey. We're going to be talking about them. Later, we're going to be talking about the mayoral election in New York City and a lot of mayoral elections, honestly, happening across the country, but New York City's, usually the most important one because
hmm
New York City is the biggest city in the U.S. And then you have sort of other minor races like special elections and Supreme Court elections across for states Supreme Courts. Now, those are a little bit more minor elections, more specific ones. So we're going to be not touching on those today. We're going to be talking about them in future videos when we get closer. So for now, let's focus on the two governor elections.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with Virginia here. In the state of Virginia, this is probably the least chaotic one, at least as of right now, because it seems like both the Democrats and Republicans have sort of settled on their nominees, their respective nominees. The Republicans, seeing as Virginia's a bit strange and term limits their incumbents at one consecutive term, Glenn Youngkin, the current governor, cannot run for re-election in 2025. So his lieutenant governor will be running, Winsome Sears. She seems to be on track to win the Republican nomination. Glenn Youngkin's already endorsed her, so that's already a great advantage. There's some rumors that maybe Amanda Chase, a more extreme Republican, could try to challenge her on her right, but I believe Winsome Sears is going to be a lock for the Republicans going into the primary. And the Democratic primary on the other side, it does seem like the Democrats are pretty settled in on Abigail Spanberger. She's one of the Democratic representatives who first won election to the House in 2018. She's been a more moderate representative, but yeah, like representing a more suburban district outside Richmond. So yes, she's been consistently able to win in like a battleground district, so she's a pretty good candidate. I'll give that to the Dems here. And a potential challenger is another representative, Bobby Scott. He's been rumored to be potentially challenging Spanberger, but Spanberger, again, has already won major endorsements from other Democrats in the state. So I believe she's pretty locked in also. So I think in all likelihood, it's going to be Spanberger versus Sears here.
Yeah, so just taking it from there, I think we can now talk about the fundamentals of the race.
hmm
And in terms of this race, I mean, obviously, looking at the map, we know that Virginia is generally considered a light blue state, especially on the federal level, and it has been that way for a few decades now. And so, Kamala Harris won the state, Tim Kaine won the state on the Senate level, and there's two Democrat senators as well from Virginia. However, on the state level, the results have been a lot more varied. Obviously, in 2021, we had the big surprise of Glenn Youngkin winning the state. Maybe it wasn't that big of a surprise because of how unpopular Biden was, but it was still a big victory for Republicans nonetheless. The biggest red waves because we didn't even have one in 2022. So that was sort of where the red wave was. And in Virginia, Republicans also made significant progress in the state legislature, although it didn't happen in 2023. However,
hmm
we're now at this crossroads where, we see Trump is going to be the next president, and that bodes well for Democrats on the state level. It bodes well for Abigail Spanberger because usually the out party does better in these off-year elections as the public sours on their choice for president because Americans are funny like that. And so it looks good for Spanberger because it's a light blue state, even though on the state level, Republicans have been doing better, and Winsome Sears is a good candidate. I mean, she's the lieutenant governor of the state, although maybe that isn't that strong considering what happened to the south of Virginia this year. There's some parallels here actually, but um, it looks good for Spanberger because of how of the fundamentals of the race. Honestly,
Yes.
this would be a leaner likely D, maybe lean D, but yeah, I don't know.
I actually, I mean, I happen to believe it's still likely here because, I mean, Trump won the state. Oh, sorry. Wait, that was a mistake. Harris won the state by 5.8 points. So she got it up to a likely margin in the state of Virginia there. So yes, I highly believe Democrats are likely to do better than that with Abigail Spanberger, or at least match that. One thing that's potentially going for Winsome Sears here is Glenn Youngkin's pretty popular in the state, despite being a Republican in a blue state, a blue-ish state. Glenn Youngkin has a very positive approval rating. Um, Last I checked, I believe it was like around like 57% approval, which is pretty high. Um, but so maybe some of that, trickles down to his lieutenant governor. But I think Abigail Spanberger is definitely a formidable candidate. She's capable of winning swing races. She's proven repeatedly. And also another thing going for Democrats here is I think off-year elections might just end up helping Democrats because they typically have lower turnout. More educated voters usually turn out for them. And I think what we've been seeing over the last few years is in these like sort of off-cycle elections, and even special elections, Democrats have been doing better, even though they've completely got crushed in the general election. They were doing pretty well in special elections, even as recently as 2024. So I think Democrats are pretty likely to take it in Virginia. The betting markets even reflect that too. So I'd put it around a likely blue. Yeah.
Yeah, looking at the betting markets, 73%. This is somewhere in between lean and likely. I mean, it looks good for Democrats, but 28 cents is nothing to scoff at, honestly. It could
Hmm.
definitely go the Republicans' way. And moving on to the state of New Jersey, our home state. This one honestly could be more competitive than the state of Virginia, which we would not have seen even 2 months ago, right? So, uh, obviously, we had a very big shock in New Jersey on election night, probably the most shocking state in the whole union, actually, right?
Hmm.
I mean, I would
I
say
agree.
so. Yeah, where Trump obviously narrowed the margin down to 5 to 6, and even Andy Kim on the Senate level didn't overperform by too much. So, New Jersey's governor race, honestly, I would say could be more competitive than the one in Virginia for once. I mean, back in 2021, we saw Jack Ciattarelli get pretty close to actually dethroning Phil Murphy in the state, who's now the governor. He came within 3 points, which was pretty big shock considering we didn't even think it was on the table. But then uh, the betting markets had Ciattarelli up at one point in the night. It looked like he might be able to pull off the extreme upset, but then he fell short by a tad. Um, it was very, very close, and he wants a shot at it again. So, Phil Murphy's done. He's going to be out of office soon,
Hmm.
and so someone's going to have to replace him on the Democrat side, which usually the Democrats are favoring New Jersey, especially when Trump's going to be in office. It does look good for him, for them, unless Trump, does something to turns around the economy real quick or something. But in terms of the candidates, it is a very, very fractured race. It's a very, very competitive race. I mean, just looking at the amount of very good candidates, like in terms
Hmm.
of their titles, this is, a lot. And I'll let you take it from here, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we do have some pretty notable candidates here. I think the biggest names to start with are Mikey Sherrill and Josh Gottheimer.
For sure.
Um, yeah, they're both incumbent representatives. They're both on the more moderate-ish wing of the party. Gottheimer especially is a very moderate Democrat. Um, and yeah, I believe they're both at least Cheryl is ahead in the polls as of right now. She's a slight lead in the polls. I think she's like polling at around, yeah, like you can see there, like around 20-ish%. Some of these might be internals, but in all four of them, she is ahead, which I do believe makes sense. Uh, Similarly to Spanberger, like she's one of the Democrats that got washed in with that blue wave in 2018. And she was her similarly to Gottheimer. They're both capable of winning swingy races. I mean, since then their districts have been gerrymandered a bit, so they're bluer than they used to be. But back they are capable, and as we've seen in the past, they've been historically able to win close races. So that's interesting going for them. In terms of other candidates, we have more progressive candidates like the incumbent mayors of Newark and Jersey City, Ros Baraka and Stephen Fulop. Yeah, they're both running to the more progressive end of the party, anti-machine. New Jersey is a big Democratic machine. We're probably not going to go into it much this video, but maybe if we do a more in-depth video, we'll cover it. But they've been kind of running as outsiders to that New Jersey political machine on the more progressive wing of the Democratic Party. So they have those two mayors there, and there's also Stephen Sweeney, who's you know a more entrenched a more
Yeah,
entrenched
speaking of the machine.
machinist, yeah, a machinist politician. Um, Part of that, one of the leaders of the South Jersey machine, right there. So yeah, he's a more conservative-ish Democrat also. Um, but yeah, I'd say right now, um, they're all getting different like levels of support from different corners of the party. I would say Mikey Sherrill is a slight favorite just because of the polling. And also she's getting a diverse range of endorsements across North Jersey, so that's a big help to her. So I think for now, I would say she's the favorite to win the primary. Yeah.
Yes, I do see this the same way you do. I mean, it's difficult. I honestly don't know who would win this. Obviously, Mikey Sherrill's winning, or Mickey Sherrill, she's winning all the polls right now, which looks good for her, but she's still in the 20s, which really we can't say much. I mean, one or two dropouts and endorsements would probably eclipse her. The undecideds also eclipse her. So, you know,
Hmm.
it's not just concrete. Obviously, the Congress people have the best chance because not only do they have the name recognition of a larger percent of New Jersey, but they also definitely have the fundraising machine as well that backs them, that got them into the House.
Yes.
These mayors, they do have a lot of local backing, but in terms of winning the whole state over, it could be more difficult. And yeah, Stephen Sweeney, I mean, he used to be a very strong force. Honestly, I thought he would be the next mayor, before 2022. And I guess we'll just move on to the Republican primary because
Hmm.
Edward Durr, Bill Durr, or Ed Durr, I don't really know, but
Hmm.
he's the guy that dethroned Stephen Sweeney in his district. You'll see 2022 to 2024. I mean, he's out now, but if we go back to Stephen Sweeney, his tenure ends in 2022 in the third district, and he got dethroned in the New Jersey
Yep.
Senate, in the Republican localized red wave in the Northeast by a little truck driver that had like a few $100s in spending. So people just really were fed up with him in his local district, which is really bad. Anyways, we can also see, of course, the aforementioned Jack Chiarelli. He was, of course, the nominee for governor in 2021 on the Republican side, did very, very well, and a lot of people want to see him back because of how close he got. Maybe people think, not going against an incumbent could do better for him, although honestly, I think it would be better for the Republicans here in this race if Kamala Harris won. Regardless, you also have John Bramnick, who's probably another very prominent candidate. Of you can read, he's a lot of experience in the state legislature.
Hmm.
He's seen as someone that's very electable because of how moderate he is as well. However, it's a little difficult to tell in terms of who would be the stronger candidate. I mean, we should also probably mention Bill Spadea, but
Yeah.
looking into the polling, I think is also very important. I think this is an internal for sure, but still,
Yes.
Chickarelli up at 44% does look good for him. And looking at all the endorsements, it's a little bit split, although I think a lot of people want to see Chickarelli run again in terms of like a lot of Republicans because of how well he did, but also some people think Bramnick would outperform him actually. So it's difficult to tell.
Yeah.
But I
Um,
do think Chitterley has the fundraising edge, though. You go ahead.
Yes, yes. I believe for now. One interesting factor is I do think there's a possibility, like unlike the Virginia race, I think it's more likely Trump endorses in this race. Um, Bill Spadea, we didn't really, you didn't really mention him there, but he's a very close ally of Donald Trump in the state of New Jersey.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes.
and yeah, he's also running for governor, to the right of Schitterelli. So I think there is definitely a real possibility that Trump endorses him. He like well, we mentioned earlier, like Trump had a big rally in New Jersey, um, like a couple months ago, like before the election, and Bill Spadea was one of the speakers there, and he's really developed that relationship with Trump. So I do think there is a real possibility Trump could get involved and try to push Spadea to the front of the Republican primary. So it's not really locked in for sure. I would say as of right now, Schitterelli's probably the favorite, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Trump rally that obviously happened. Yeah, I could see the endorsement come in for Spadea. I mean, Chitterelli and Trump are not friends. They are actually quite unfriendly towards each other. So, I mean, I could definitely see Trump endorse against Chitterelli in this race, but I think New Jersey Republicans are a little less like NPC, like in terms of just following Trump's endorsement. I feel like they're less movable in that sense, probably more educated, in terms of acquiring a college degree than most Republican parties across the country, and a little more Trump resistant. I would say, even though a lot of people voted for Trump in New Jersey, generally, I think the New Jersey GOP is a lot more establishment, a lot more moderate, and less, you know, less open to the MAGA wing. But regardless, that is basically that. I'm pretty sure there is no, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
lean D is fine. Like, it could
I would
also be likely, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I would argue likely. I genuinely think it'd probably stay about the same, especially if Cheryl or Gottheimer is the Democratic nominee. I think New Jersey's going to stay about the same where it was in 2024, with the Democrats winning by around 5.9. It might just, in all likelihood, it's probably going to be even bluer than that, to be honest. So I think both New Jersey and Virginia are sitting around likely margins to start, um, for these governor elections.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm more on the border of lean and likely, but we'll see. I mean, especially in New Jersey, I think we'll have to see what happens on the governor level, because usually the governor level's better for Republicans than the federal level, and they already improved so much on the federal level. I could see us going within five, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see who gets nominated in both of, especially in both parties in New Jersey.
Hmm.
But especially the Republican side, I think is a little more crucial to see who would win. Although this is a very crowded. Yeah, we'll see what happens, because a competitive primary can be quite damaging at times. So let's move on to New York City, though, I guess.
Yep. So yeah, New York City election's also kind of interesting. I mean, it's the largest city in the United States, as you mentioned earlier. There's like 8 million people who live there. So it's bigger than a lot of states, in that. But yeah, so it's interesting, in that Eric Adams, the incumbent mayor, is, very, very unpopular. He's in a bit of a hole right now, with his approval rating sitting, according to like a Marist poll like a couple months ago, is sitting around like 25%. So they don't really like him at all. I'm sure part of this is due to failed policies, lack of affordability, and there's problems like processing illegal immigrants coming into the city also, and he's getting a lot of flame for that. But I think most of it is derived from just him being a kind of a corrupt mayor. There's been recent allegations of him getting bribes from the Turkish government. And yeah, that's just not exactly a good look. Um, and yeah, taking bribes as the mayor of a major U.S. city, is definitely a no-no. And yeah, I don't think Eric Adams is really going to be able to survive this just because of his unpopularity. One unique thing about the New York City Democratic primary is they use ranked choice voting. So you have to be able to obtain a majority of the city's support, like 50%, in order to be, the Democratic nominee. And I just don't think Eric Adams has the support to make it there. So when we look to some of his more notable opponents, I think the most notable ones in the race right now is the current comptroller of the city, Brad Lander. Um, yeah, so yeah, like a comptroller is essentially like doing audits on like the city budget and stuff like that. He is an elected official. So yeah, I mean, him being in that position is a good starting point to run against Adams. Believe also the former comptroller is also running. Scott Stringer, he ran in 2021. Yeah, he didn't do so hot. He got like 6% of the vote back then, but yeah, he's running again. And there's a couple like state senators and state assembly people also in the mix right now. Um, right now it's just kind of like a mix of like different names. Like no one like who incredibly sticks out outside those comptrollers. Um, but there's like two potential candidates that are like people are potentially looking at like could jump in. One is Letitia James, the current state attorney general. I'm a little doubtful she'll jump in, just because I think she might try for governor eventually. Um, and she has like I think that her having statewide office could just be better than being the mayor of New York City. And being the mayor of New York City like isn't exactly like the best role because most mayors of New
Yeah, it
York
could
City just
hurt.
end up being unpopular. Yeah, so there's that. But the other more notable potential candidate is former governor Andrew Cuomo.
Mm.
Now this is for our newer viewers, this could be a bit of a deep cut here, but he used to be, he was governor back during the pandemic, and he got a lot of praise initially for his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. I used to, Alvin and I are from New Jersey. I used to see signs like saying like Cuomo 2020 and stuff like that. So he used to be really popular in that New York City area, but he's since fallen from grace pretty substantially. Um, um, First, like there was like some discrepancies in how he handled the pandemic. There's like a nursing home scandal and him like lying about how many people actually were dying to the virus. So that was one thing. And then also there was cases of potential sexual misconduct by the governor, which forced him to inevitably leave office and resign. So yeah, he's not exactly in the best position either, but he's right now there seems like a real possibility he might try for a political comeback in going against Eric Adams. Um, you know, Hoping people memory hold all the stuff he did back in 2021 and 2020 and all that and try to get back into the political sphere through the mayorship. But yeah, that's
Yeah,
just the state right now.
I would pay to see that debate. I mean, those two would go at it in terms of fighting over who has the bigger scandal. Um, but I mean, just honestly, looking at these like internal polls, I mean, obviously these are like done by Eric Adams and whatever. And so like Eric Adams with that ranked choice, like that ranked choice structure to the Democrat primary, if that holds, I mean, honestly, it could be the end of Eric Adams because I mean, if it's a plurality vote with so many candidates, Eric Adams' name recognition could just get him over the line. And this happens often in terms of
Hmm.
incumbent candidates doing that. But if it's ranked choice voting, it could be the end of him. I mean, yeah, like you said, nothing truly interesting in terms of candidates. I guess if someone like a former representative or a current representative like Jamal Bowman jump in the race, that could be interesting. Although he also fell this year to another Democrat, and so it's gonna be interesting. I mean, no one huge, no big wild cards like an Andrew Yang. I mean, at least yet, I guess.
Yeah.
Just like we had like last time around. But I mean, Eric Adams honestly came from nowhere because I did not think he was gonna win, and he did win. So that's, I mean, just goes to show, in a very fractured race, there's a lot of opportunity to earn support. But I mean, even looking at his approval polls, I mean, most people think he should be out, like 70%. This could definitely be a bad poll because even, I mean, polling cities is difficult. It's very small
Yes, that
sample
is.
size, so let's put that caveat at the front. But I mean, 26% approval, 74% disapproval. I don't even know if Mitch McConnell has that bad of an approval rating. Holy.
That's
So
true.
yeah, this might be the worst approval rating out of anyone in American politics. I don't know. Like this is just horrible. And so most people think she should resign, 70% honestly. So I mean, even the 30% that think he should serve out the rest of the term, maybe half of that want him to rerun, right? Because
Yeah.
this is difficult for him. But regardless, he's still leading the odds, which is pretty big. But I think it's because obviously name recognition and
Yeah.
jumping out. No one else has a big start. The other guy with the most name recognition, Andrew Cuomo, guess what? Honestly, his scandal could potentially be worse because, sexual misconduct could be considered worse than bribery, depending on how you look at it. And Andrew Cuomo is about even with him. I mean, they're sort of just on the same level. Both of them sort of disgraced. You have a lot of people looking
Yeah.
to clean up, but can they clean up with such low name recognition in a fractured field trying to get that opposition vote? Difficult to tell. Ranked choice voting could do it for them, though.
Yeah, I mean, the ranked choice voting is, very lucky New Yorkers have that in this case because yeah, like without it, I think Eric Adams would definitely be favored. Um, but yeah, ranked choice voting is a system that tries at least to get the most uh the most moderate candidate that not necessarily the most moderate, the candidate that the people most prefer. Since it requires 50% at least for a winner. It tries to build the broader coalitions. So hopefully with that they can get someone who doesn't have crazy scandals against them, uh, like regarding corruption and such. So yeah, that gives candidates like Brad Lander and Scott Stringer a chance to potentially compete. Um, as of right now, like my predictions, it's hard to make one because you know big names haven't decided whether or not they want to get in. Again, we're not 100% sure if Andrew Cuomo will even jump into the mayoral election. If he does, though, I do think there's a shot he's favored. If he doesn't, I would argue that one of the former either the current or the former comptroller, Brad Lander or Scott Stringer is favored. But so yeah, it really just depends on who hops in.
I agree. I think honestly the only reason why Cuomo's below Adams right now is because we don't know if he's hopping in. If he does hop in, I think this would probably jump to like 40% off the bat. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting race. And just to reiterate, for those that are confused why we aren't even discussing the Republican primary or the general election, it's because New York City is very, very Democrat leaning. Although less so this maybe the racial depolarization is going to change that eventually, maybe in like 15 to 20 years. But for now, New York City is still a Democratic stronghold, and it's going to be that way for a lot of mayoral elections that we're going to be discussing throughout the rest of this year because a lot of mayoral elections are going to happen in 2025, and most big cities are controlled by Democrats, and the only real difference is like in the Democratic primary. So, just for viewers, we're not going to really be discussing Republican primaries much, although I guess you can look at the candidate list here. And I guess technically Eric Adams could actually switch to being a Republican because of Trump's sort of been pandering to. But regardless,
Yes.
other than that, though, I don't think we're going to be seeing much Republican movement in this race or any other major mayoral race in the future. So I
Yeah.
think that's about it, though.
Mhm.
Um, Virginia, New Jersey gubernatorial election soon. New York City mayor election this year as well, and a lot of city level races across the nation, and some other small races we'll be covering soon as well. But that's the 2025 preview. Leave a like on this video down below. Comment down below any future video suggestions as well as we enter the new year. Subscribe to the channel so we don't miss our future content. Thanks for 1,000 subscribers and hit that notification button. Thanks for watching and Happy New Year.
See you guys.